Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. I'm so excited to have with me three issuers on the Netcapital platform, each of them actively raising capital for today's April demo day. Before we dig into those, please let's allow one moment for folks to settle in. I see people coming into the wait room right now. Let's allow 1 minute and then we'll dig right in. Thank you for joining. Normally, this is where I like to ask people where they're calling in from. It's always fun seeing folks from all over the place. We have had the chat feature disabled just because we really want to funnel people to the Q&A feature. Q&A is the easiest way to track all the questions as they come in and make sure we get to as many of them as possible. So we don't have that available right now, but I hope folks are calling in from all over the place. Usually we'll see East Coast, West Coast, international, all across the middle of the country. It really is some of my favorite parts about being here is seeing issuers and investors from all over the world. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dig right in. As I mentioned earlier, I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. We have three fantastic issuers on the line today. We're going to go in order of the invite list on the calendar. We're going to start off with Acesis Biomed. Then we're going to work our way to Aphios Pharma. And we're going to finish it off with Grupo Zorro. Do stick around for the entire time, even if you're here for one specific issuer. We're going to do closing remarks at the end where each issuer will have a chance to share about their background. So I'm super excited. As I mentioned, we are all actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. You can go to netcapital.com and search Acesis, Aphios, or Grupo. You'll be able to see it there. You'll be able to learn more, review the offering page, and if you're so inclined, you too can invest. With that being said, one quick housekeeping item. As I mentioned earlier, please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. We're here for your questions. We want to make sure this is as interactive as possible. So please do ask your questions. I'll keep track of them there, and I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. So please ask your questions there. And if you miss anything, or if you know there's somebody who is not able to attend that might benefit from this, might be interested in learning about this, please do share the recording after. This is being recorded as always. It'll be up on the Netcapital YouTube just pretty shortly here. So if you know somebody who missed it, or if you miss anything, go ahead and share that with them. With that being said, we're going to kick things off right away with Costas and Thomas speaking about Acesis Biomed. Please come on in here. I see you're sharing your screen. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're building with Acesis?
Excellent. First of all, I would like to welcome everyone that is attending the webinar. Thank you also. It's a pleasure to meet the other two panelists. Thank you, Eric, for organizing this. I'm here today with our CEO, Mr. Tom Olson, that when time comes, both of us can answer questions from the audience. We're Acesis Biomed. We are a company that is planning to transform the field of low testosterone in men. And what I mean with that, our vision is to empower men's well-being and health by inducing natural production through innovative approach. Our mission is to develop groundbreaking treatment that stimulates the natural production of T in the body of men that have low testosterone, whether this is the main indication or whether this is comorbidities. Our company was established back in 2015 and currently are operating through Acesis Holdings Corporation through two subsidiaries, Acesis Biomed in the UK and Acesis Biomed based in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. Our platform technology is based on a patented drug platform, orally bioavailable peptides. Peptides, again, for those that are not technical in the audience, are small Lego blocks. In our case, there are 4 blocks or 5 blocks, what is included in our pipeline, with a differentiation factor that induces the body, the testes, to produce its own endogenous natural testosterone. The company is run by experienced leadership in both operating both private and public organizations. I've been in the biotech field for over 35 years. I'm a molecular biologist by training, molecular endocrinologist, more specifically trained at McGill in animal endocrinology. So the subject that we're talking today is very relevant. Experience in fundraising, both non-dilutive and dilutive. Experiences in public companies and IPOs. And my colleague, Tom Olson, also 35 plus years in operations in public and and smaller biotech and other organizations. Our product and disease focus is male hypogonadism. Male hypogonadism is a medical condition which implies that the testes of men do not produce enough testosterone. There are also many comorbidities like type 2 diabetes, obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and also an orphan drug disease called Klinefelter syndrome, where boys are born with an extra chromosome and they never sexually mature. In terms of our IP, we have 2 families of patents, and our candidate pipeline of drugs has been based on the work of 35 plus years of Dr. Papadopoulos, who is our scientific founder, and currently he's the Dean of the School of Pharmacy at the University of Southern California. He has received over 12 million in grants for that specific part of the work. He's very well funded, over 300 million in funding over his career. Our investment thesis were developing a first-in-class novel drug candidate of peptides, which has been sufficiently de-risked to transition to IND-enabling studies and transition to phase 1 clinical trial. Part of our model is to out-license at preclinical and clinical stages, as I'll describe in a minute ago, for partnership also opportunities. Testosterone stands at the foundation of male health, impacting not only physical attributes, but also cognitive function and overall vitality. Symptoms of low testosterone include reduced libido, infertility, decreased energy, poor concentration and memory, and increased body fat, and is involved in many, many diseases that perhaps none of us would relate, like osteoporosis. Yes, men do get osteoporosis. Then you have cardiovascular diseases, obesity, as I mentioned, depression. If you were to present with mood changes and seeing the world not in bright colors, and you go to your physician, it's very likely he or she would be prescribing you antidepressants. So the testosterone actually deficiency has not been appreciated by the medical field for many, many years. Now this comes of age. Both physicians and basic scientists agree on the vital role of testosterone in men's well-being. So the central role of testosterone remains a key focus in male health and longevity as a result, as extrapolation of the other health benefits that testosterone has in men's health. And it needs to be demystified. First of all, there's the stigma that how many of us will admit that we have low libido, that we have erectile dysfunction. And on the other side, when we hear the word testosterone, we always think about building muscles or a six-pack. But there's a lot more of that that has to do with the men's well-being. The problem is that as we age, as men, from the age of early 20s to early 30s, actually, we start losing about 1 to 2% of our testosterone per year. So when we reach the age of 65 to 70, we have almost 50 to 60% less testosterone than the levels we had when we were 20 years old. So this is part of our biological clock. Again, not recognized as widely as menopause, but men also go through what we call andropause. So after we reach that early peak, 20 to 50% over the age of 60 will have globally significantly lower levels of testosterone, not all of them with the side effects, as I mentioned, low libido, cardiovascular, et cetera, et cetera. So again, hypogonadism is the under-functioning of the testes to not produce enough testosterone. The deficiency, again, originates from various factors, which could be primary or secondary. Primary would be a defect in the testes, and secondary would be a hormonal imbalance from the back of the brain. Let's look at some very staggering statistics. Other than the known effects, as I mentioned, if we focus on the green graph here and on the pink graph, this is the percentage of men that having either type 2 diabetes or obesity. So 50% in both categories have low testosterone. This is staggering. It is estimated today that almost 40% of American adults have obesity, while about 31% are overweight. So you can see this is huge in terms of the numbers. more worrisome is that this bar here, that the age by which young adolescents become now testosterone deficiency goes earlier and earlier. So now you have the 18-year-olds appearing in the physician's office, and they're diagnosed with low testosterone. This is mainly of environmental factors, is the microplastics, and is all the coatings that exist in our plastic bottles and containers we drink from. So major issue in major diseases today, major markets as well. And the list goes on and on. Low testosterone has been associated with dementia, traumatic brain injury, multiple sclerosis. 25% of men with multiple sclerosis have low testosterone. Chronic kidney disease, 30% of men are hypogonadal. Sickle cell disease, 20% of men with sickle cell disease have low testosterone that results actually in priapism, which is erections without any stimulation that are very painful and many times lead to surgical intervention. Other conditions, COPD, muscular dystrophy, sleep apnea, cystic fibrosis, and opioid users have actually low testosterone. The market dynamics, again, we're talking about an established market of about $2 to $3 billion is estimated by 2033 with an annual growth of about 5 to 6% to reach over $3 billion. Most of the expansion comes from non-US markets, although the dominant markets today is North America. And you also have the additional target populations. I spoke a minute ago about the young adolescents now become hypogonadal. And also the over 65 years old group, which is an indication that is not approved by the FDA today. FDA believes that this is a condition that is a part of the natural aging. So the approved indications for the current marketed products is between the age of 30 and 65 with biochemical diagnosis and also clinical diagnosis by a physician. There's also the lack of innovation. Testosterone was discovered back in the 1930s, resulted in a couple of Nobel prizes. But since then, all the testosterone products use the same core chemistry, modified one way or another to avoid liver toxicity and use different delivery methods. So there's a black box warning also alerting physicians and users alike about the side effects of the testosterone products. Plus, the introduction of generics creates more competition. The other nice thing that is happening, as I mentioned, is the demystification of the testosterone value, and that there is now convergence of the experts' opinion about the value of normal T, especially in the comorbidities, type 2 diabetes, obesity. There are several studies showing the effect of testosterone, the benefit of testosterone in diseases, and socioeconomic analysis indicate that those comorbidities that go untreated in the US alone cost about $25 billion in US market. Again, in terms of the market dynamics, if we look at the other diseases, as I mentioned, for example, obesity, and oops, I'm sorry here, is a market of 27 billion as we speak, and we all know the Ozempics and the like. Fatty liver disease, a $60 billion market by 2031. And diabetes type 2 is an ever-expanding market, is reaching in 2029, $92 billion. So you can see here that a product that is innovative, that is hopefully to be proven, our product candidate in the clinic that is safer than the existing marketed products, to enter markets with partners that the total addressable market is over $150 billion. Again, very quickly, what our target product profile looks like. We're non-steroid product. We're based on a peptide. We are not introducing testosterone in the human body. Everything else in the market is over 80, 90 years old, chemistry. We are restoring natural testosterone as opposed to the current products that is replacement of excess exogenous synthetic. Our administration is oral being developed. Everything else in the market today is transdermal, injections taking the majority, gels. And the last 3 years, there is introduction of pills. We don't expect any significant side effects, again, to be proven in clinical trials. As I mentioned, the currently marketed products have a black box warning in terms of infertility, risk of clotting, high blood pressure, and the potential for aggravating underlying prostate cancer issues. In terms of abuse and misuse, because of the unique mechanism of action, we don't expect any. I will not talk much about the mechanism. Again, this is our pipeline. We are in the process of entering IND-enabling studies on, we remain laser focused on primary and secondary hypogonadism. And the other disease I mentioned, they're either being evaluated through academic collaborations, and we're seeking partners for the obesity and cachexia areas. In terms of our programs and progress in our preclinical program, we have 2 patents in our family portfolio with issued claims across the globe. We have established the half-life of the candidate molecules that induces sufficient at least 2-fold consistent and highly significant increase of testosterone in animals. We have established the effective dosage for men, which is equivalent to about 40 milligrams, most likely is going to be twice per day pill. We know from the work of Dr. Papadopoulos that our peptides induce formation also in human Leydig cells. This is in vitro. We don't have any significant off-target effects. This is both in animals and also during the safety panels. We have agreements in place with CROs and CMOs for production of the peptide. We have an established manufacturing process for batches of over 50 grams, which is sufficient for the stage of development. Regulatory path established, and we have identified the phase 1 plan and also the site where we're going to run the first clinical trial. In terms of our go-to-market strategy, our focus remains male hypogonadism. Again, we'll be seeking to license or co-partner, either at preclinical or phase 1A, phase B, or phase 2. In terms of the other indications, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, we're seeking license out the molecules at an earlier stage, between now and the phase 1. The more esoteric and exotic indications like cachexia or combination with GLP drugs, again, that would be, we'll be seeking earlier exit by licensing out. At the current financing environment, again, we're remaining leisure focused to enter the clinic with less than 12 months. And our primary strategy is to license and create strategic partnerships. As I mentioned, this could happen at preclinical, phase 1AB, and establish licensing opportunities with larger pharma or biotech partners. The benefits is to create an immediate revenue to fuel the development of the other indications, reduce financial and development risks, and partners and infrastructure to be able to harvest milestone payments and royalties. The alternative strategy is to co-develop, which is a bit more risky in terms of and capital intensive, but that's an opportunity we always have in the back of our minds. The benefit, of course, is to reduce the upfront cost and share the risk with commercial partners that are in the field, either in endocrinology or urological markets. The long-term option, especially self-commercialization, because it's very capital intensive, it's something that with the current market conditions, we are not really being part of our strategy. This is one of the last 2 slides. The idea is here that, as I mentioned, always as a biotech company, you're thinking that you may be acquired, strategic partnership, and of course, we may opt for an IPO. The value-added milestones here for the next 24 months include to move to the phase 1 in less than 12 months, as the arrow depicts here. And of course, all these activities assume proper financing, including the Netcapital campaign we currently have. So these are some of the milestones. There are not all of the milestones included, but include the GMP manufacturing to go to the clinic, early discussions with the regulatory agencies, and do the pivotal animal GLP studies required before we submit the IND file to the agency. Why invest in Acesis now? Because we believe we have a unique investment opportunity because of the innovative therapy based on the science and the work of Dr. Papadopoulos, 35 plus years. It's a novel drug candidate pipeline addressing a significant need in the low T field. A huge market potential, especially one considers the comorbidities for low T. It's a proven business model that a capital efficiency strategy, basically by licensing the technology and the platform to mitigate risk and at the same time maximize investor return earlier. The early monetization, as I mentioned, by strategically partnering with partners at preclinical phase 1, A or B, may generate revenues, reducing long-term capital requirements. And also, this is a model that there are several examples, numerous examples actually, that demonstrate this strategy at the stage of development that Acesis is today, vis-a-vis the preclinical. In terms also of we believe we have an investor-friendly structure that early investors may benefit from potential future valuation uplift upon us meeting milestones. We have a comprehensive, clear development path with achievable milestones in the preclinical, pre-IND and IND stages. The establishment of CDMO agreements, CRO, and academic partnerships ensures compliance, scalability, and also reduction of operational risk because we're a virtual company. We don't have any labs, any facilities, or expensive equipment. The management has experience with drug development, licensing transactions, fund raising, and strong track record in navigating public and private ventures from early stage to successful market exits.
And Kostas, yeah, this is actually perfect because this gets us to our very last question here. So with the last minute, you talked about Dr. Papadopoulos, but please tell us a little bit about yourself and Tom
yes,
as well.
Yes, I've been in the field, in life science for over 35 years, mixing both public and private organization and also academia, always inventing and innovating, fundraising, both dilutive and dilutive funding, product development, commercialization strategies. Dr. P, who is the heart of the science and the innovator of what we're developing with a hope to commercialize, has published more than 350 papers, and he's a KOL in the field of steroid synthesis. As I mentioned, Tom, our CEO, he has over 35 years experience working with public and private organizations, specializing in corporate operations and governance. Our other three nominated members, Mrs. Pomeroy, she's a financing expert. Mr. Slingerall, he is actually an experienced entrepreneur that provides great advice in terms of fundraising and other opportunities, and he's looking at it from a different, completely angle. Dr. Fasano, again, a pharma experienced individual. He recently had appointments with Aphios Pharma, public company, and also Servier Canada that had 350 million yearly revenues. Last but
I
not
appreciate
least,
that. Sorry about that. I think about the pause there because we want to make sure we get a couple more folks on the line here. But the good news is, folks, you can access a lot of these materials on their offering page. Again, you can go to netcapital.com and search Acesis Biomed there, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/company/Acesis, where you can review all these materials. And if you're so inclined, you too can invest. And I just want to say, I'm really happy that we're having these conversations about this. As the human body matures, there's so many things that change. And I think it's really helpful for us to be able to be honest about what's going on and look for solutions that can improve our health. So I'm a big fan
I'm
that we're
glad
kind
you
of
admit
getting
it,
past.
Eric.
I stand right by it. Look, I got a lot of things going on over here, and I think it's good to be able to be transparent about that and take steps to improve your health. So thank you so much for what you were doing, and Tom as well. With that being said, I want to keep the party going here. Continue to ask your questions. Feel free. And I'm going to switch over to Aphios. Dr. Castor, why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit about what you're building with Aphios Pharma?
Hello, how are you? Let me bring my slides up. Okay, so good afternoon. Can you see my slides, Eric?
Yes, we can. Looks great.
Okay, great. My name is Dr. Trevor P. Casto. I'm President and CEO of Aphios Pharma, LLC. I have a background in chemical and mechanical engineering with about 30 years of biotechnology experience. Now, backed by about $50 million in funding and about $20 million in NIH grants, our platform targets addiction, pain, anxiety, multiple sclerosis, and epilepsy with extended release cannabinoids. Now, the problems we're addressing are both human and societal. Every 6 minutes, someone in the US dies from an opioid overdose. Millions more live in pain and anxiety, struggling with CNS disorders like epilepsy and multiple sclerosis. Existing treatments are short-acting, ineffective, or dangerously addictive. Now, what makes these disorders common to all of us is that we are all endowed with an internal cannabinoid or endocannabinoid system. Imbalances in our internal cannabinoid system can cause imbalances in our health and our ability to respond to negative health intrusions, be they external or internal. External cannabinoids can help rebalance our endocannabinoid system. However, cannabis has complicated interactions with our central nervous system, and current treatments only stay in our body for a short period of time. So what do? We use nanoparticles to keep specific cannabinoids in the body longer and extend their release over a period of time in terms of days and weeks. Our management team consists of myself, my wife, Dr. Judith Palmer Castro. She's the Director of Regulatory and Clinical Affairs, Business Advisor, Dr. Val Nevada, ex-MIT, and Catherine Prillo, Financial Controller with more than 30 years of financial experience. Key advisors include Dr. Stacy Gruber of Harvard Medical School on anxiety, Dr. Brent Boyer on addiction, Dr. J. Stephen Alexander on multiple sclerosis and epilepsy, and Dr. Todd Vandera on pharmacology and pain. Just recently, we engaged an independent valuation company, Explico of Norway, to conduct a market analysis of our lead product for opioid use disorder. The net present value of this product is $300 million, and the risk-adjusted net present value is $69 million. Well, what's our ask? The price per unit share is $3.44. The minimum investment is just $100, and our pre-money valuation based on our opioid use disorder product is $69 million.
Actually, Dr. Caster, sorry to mind if I can pause you for a moment. Since we're going to be describing the investment opportunity, we want to avoid some of these offering terms. So I'm going to remind folks, you can go directly to netcapital.com/company/Aphios, where you can see all of this information here. But we want to make sure that we comply with the regulators here, and this might be right on the edge there. So if we can go to the next slide, but all the information that you need is available on the offering page. But today we want to focus on the investment opportunity, not the specific terms. Thank you so much, Dr. Caster.
Well, it's public. So we anticipate there will be multiple exit opportunities to your investment over the next 2 to 5 years. The first potential exit will be after phase 2B clinical trials in 2027, at which time we'll be able to do a licensing deal. Now, over the last 5 years, CNS deals have been around $1 billion with upfront payments of about $100 million. The second opportunity will be an M&A in 2028 with a multinational pharmaceutical or biotechnology company. The third potential exit will be an IPO in 2029 to raise $100 million for 10% of the company to conduct phase 3 clinical trials. And the fourth potential exit will occur after we have completed phase 3 clinical trials and FDA approved, very similar to the purchase by Jazz Pharmaceuticals of GW Pharma for Epidiolex, an FDA-approved acute CBD product to treat childhood epilepsy for $7.2 billion in 2018. So, in summary, we address massive markets and investment opportunities. We have significant traction from NIH grants and pharma companies, and our technology is protected by 17 patents. And we also develop CBD nanoparticles as an OTC product. And this, we estimate, will double our valuation. So sign up now before the next step in valuation, step up, and join us to grow this awesome opportunity with huge potential societal benefits and financial returns. Thank you for your interest. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Castor. I don't think there's ever been a more relevant time for people struggling with pain and anxiety and addiction. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, and I think there's kind of chronic conditions. So I'm always grateful when very smart folks like yourself are working on problems like that. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into this space? Why is this so important to you? What was it that said, of all the things I've learned and I can dedicate my life to? What was it that made this the kind of top of the list there? If you don't mind sharing a little bit more about that.
Oh, absolutely. I've been involved in natural products in nature for about 3 decades because it's a symbiotic relationship between nature and man. And of course, cannabis is from a plant, and we have a natural endocannabinoid system. So it's a natural fit to see how we can help rebalance our internal CNS systems with cannabis. So I've been working on that area for about 2 decades now.
And I love that this is simultaneously a family affair. I think we have the other Dr. Castor on the line here. Welcome, Judith. But it's also a very expanded team with other folks from other specialties. Can you talk a little bit about how important it is to have those other specialists on your team? And you can talk about, any specific advisors or investors or supporters that you maybe didn't have a chance to really dig into on the previous slides.
Absolutely. It's key to have what I call expert consultants in specific areas. For example, Dr. Stacy Gruber on anxiety. Now, we know that CBD works in anxiety. We know Dr. Gruber has been working in the Harvard Medical School for a number of years, decades too. In terms of multiple sclerosis and epilepsy, in terms of the biology of epilepsy. So, in terms of developing a product, you have to go all the way from the plant to the materials that we're going to deliver in the human body and address the biology, the basically mechanisms of action that occur. And so we need specialists in each specific area. For example, Dr. Vandera on pain and pharmacology. That's very key to what we are doing in terms of pain.
No, that's right. And I think assembling that team has really helped you accomplish some of the traction so far. You mentioned some of your NIH, excuse me, National Institutes of Health grants, over 10 million to date in grants from that. That's an incredibly piece of your journey to this point. Can you talk a little bit about your collaboration with Rhodes Pharma, though, on the kind of on the on I know I'm gonna mispronounce this, but the nano encapsulation, is that the best I could do?
Absolutely. Rhodes Pharma was a manufacturer of cannabinoids, synthetic ones. We are more into natural ones. And they were particularly interested in how better to deliver Delta 9 THC and CBD. And we proposed to them and collaborated with them on developing our technology to encapsulate both Delta 9 THC separately and CBD separately, both in phospholipid liposomes, which is for particular applications such as glaucoma, for example, and then into polymer nanoparticles, which is very specific for more either subcutaneous application or oral administration.
No, that's I think that's incredibly important to distinguish those strategic relationships that you've already developed. I know it wasn't just Rhodes Pharma, but Alexa Pharma as well, and Prosulis Pharma, all supporting the cause here. For those who are unaware, I feel like there was a period of time where we were really intentional about talking about the opioid pandemic, and we'd use that language. My understanding is that it's not been solved. Where maybe even more folks are suffering from opioid addiction than when we started thinking about this before and during the COVID pandemic. For those who don't really appreciate how big is the opioid demand, what does it look like in terms of trying to solve this problem for helping people with that addiction?
Well, it's absolutely the largest market in the United States currently for among the entire world It's a big problem. I think it's somewhere between $3 and $50 billion, depending on how you compute it. We believe that our accessible market is about $3 billion. And the problem really occurs because most of the treatments for opioids are themselves opioids. So here we're coming along with a non-opioid therapeutic, CBD, and combining it with an antagonist for the opioid receptors, so we can delay the response that people have in terms of treatment to facilitate a response. And in this case, we are competing with companies like Alkermes with Vivitrol, where they're currently using naltrexone, which is good, but it's not effective, and a lot of people do overdose on taking Vivitrol. So what we're doing is combining CBD with low-dose naltrexone in a nanoparticle so it can be sustained over a period of time. So the user can get 30 months, 30 days of relief and not have to have any sort of relapses towards addiction again. And this is very significant.
Addiction is a very serious disease. I know there's other applications you talked about as well, from pain to anxiety, and you have other team members there. Your traction so far in terms of IP is really impressive as well. I think over 17 patents that cover some of this technology. Can you talk a bit about your kind of defensibility, your IP strategy more broadly, and how you see yourself fit into the kind of the competitive landscape? You don't have to name any names specifically, but how do you feel like Aphios fits into the competitive landscape based off of your protected IP?
So we have a very unique and environmentally sensitive approach. We use superfluids, which compress gases such as carbon dioxide to both isolate and purify the cannabinoids from cannabis, as well as utilize that same technology to nano-encapsulate the CBD and THC into either polymers or lipids. So it's a very unique application of a technology that goes all the way from taking the plant, taking the product out, and getting a pill, which is a non-encapsulated pill to deliver to patients. So that's unique. We avoid the use of organic solvents, both in the manufacturing of the CBD, pure CBD, as well as for the non-encapsulation of the CBD. And I think that's unique and different than almost all technologies that we have. And that's why we got a patents, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, no, super, super interesting. I love the work that you're doing there. Incredibly important stuff there. So thank you for dedicating your time there. For those who are listening in, that's Dr. Castor with Aphios Pharma. You can learn more at netcapital.com/company/APHIOS, or you can search Aphios on the Netcapital website. You can learn more, review the offering page, and you too can invest there. Thank you so much, Dr. Castor. Last but certainly not least, and again, please stick around, everybody. We're going to do closing remarks after this next presentation. But Robert, if you can come on and tell us a little bit about the kind of problem and solution that Grupo Zorro is addressing, and then we'll talk about your team and how you guys are perfectly situated to address it. So come on in, Robert.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I suddenly do not feel like the smartest guy on this panel. So let's make no mistake. But no, thank you for having me. It's kind of like, what's he doing here? But I don't run a biotech firm or a pharma company, but we do service and provide services that a lot of people probably think a little boring. I'm gonna share my screen here with you real quick.
Hey, boring is important, and don't worry, I permanently hold the reins for the title for least smart person on the line. So don't worry. Every time we have a panel,
Right, yes.
I will fill that role. Don't worry, Robert.
I would never second guess you ever. Again, appreciate everybody for coming out and listening to the webinar as well. Grupo Zorro, my company, we again, the services are a little boring. We do tax preparation, we do accounting work, we do insurance, we do business services, but the market that we provide it to is a little more exciting. We specialize in servicing the immigrant market, primarily Spanish speaking, also a little Portuguese, and interestingly, since we opened many years ago, I would have other immigrants come in from Eastern European countries, from India, from different places. And though we don't have anybody that speaks those languages, there was a level of comfort in coming in and working with us because we, I guess, understand maybe immigrants a little bit better than most. So that's what we've done. That's our niche. We make money. I'm not going to read the screen to you. I mean, we make money in a lot of different ways, but the business cycle that the way it usually works is we'll have somebody that comes in and wants to open up a company. They want to open a business. I've noticed that our other panelists have slight accents. I don't know. I don't know. Dr. Costas, was that Kentucky? Were you from? No, I don't think you were originally from Kentucky. Um, it seems that, and I guess it's proven that immigrants they're about 80% more likely to open businesses than native-born people. And so we will help have somebody come in. They want to open a business, not exactly comfortable with doing it because it's all done in English, and English is usually their second language. So we'll help them set it up. We'll discuss the different structures. We help them set up the company. A lot of our clients are in the trades. They're in construction. So they'll need insurance as well. So after we get the company set up, then we can get their general liability insurance. We can get their workers' comp insurance, which is mandated in the state of Florida if you're on a construction site. Another mandate from the state of Florida is the premium for that workers' compensation policy is based on payroll. So the company has to set up payroll, and so we offer their payroll. And then we end up doing taxes for them at the end of the year, doing the business taxes, doing the owner's taxes, oftentimes doing the employee's taxes. And then as we do that, often we find that some of those employees will come up and say, hey, you know what? I was interested in starting my own business. Can you help me? And so we do. And then so the cycle repeats. And so we have in our first office, our single office now, we just opened a second office about 2 months ago, but we have about 70 of the kind of VIP relationships where we do everything for them. Our second office that again opened maybe 2 months ago is already up to about 23 of those relationships. And so, all that main service throws out additional opportunities like personal auto, people needing verifications of income, people needing help doing their invoicing. All these things just tend to come our way. For whatever reason, people, if they think of an office service, they come to Zorro. If English is not their first language, that's been our experience. So, we're a lot of companies here that are doing these Reg CF offerings, maybe not my fellow panelists, but a lot of companies are startups, like true startups. They've got an idea, they want to raise capital, see if it'll work. We've been doing it 16 years. It's not pre-revenue. We're producing revenue, producing net income. We're profitable. Before we started the company, I was a stockbroker, financial advisor in a previous life. And when I decided to open up Zorro, I had some of my clients that wanted to come along, and so we did a private placement, a Reg D private placement to get things rolling. And then in subsequent years, those shares were repurchased, some at 133% profit. If they waited a little bit longer, 233%. When it was just an idea, and now I think we've kind of got the game plan figured out, and we just need to expand the footprint. The market, again, first generation immigrants, mostly Spanish speaking, but we do deal with some Portuguese as well. I have some Russian clients. I have some clients from India. I have some Arabic clients. So we do mostly obviously the largest share of that immigrant market is the Spanish speakers. So we target our advertising and everything predominantly in Spanish at this point. And I don't know if anyone knows anybody that is native Spanish speaking, or if you walked around grocery stores and hear people speaking Spanish. The culture, they like their culture. Hispanics, I found, just really appreciate somebody that tries to deal with them in Spanish. When we started 16 years ago, my Spanish is probably not amazing. I like to think it's pretty good. It's probably not amazing. When we started 16 years ago, it wasn't as good, but people would just light up when I tried to speak in Spanish. I mean, they just really appreciate it. And I think that that's also been proven. So the fact that we deliver these services, which are a little on the boring side, but we deliver them in the language that's preferred because they're a little complicated too, right? Taxes can be complicated. Insurance and the different regulations and the filings and things that businesses need to do. I mean, a lot of Anglo, like native English speaking people seek help in doing that. And so if you can only imagine if English isn't your first language, it's a little uncomfortable. So we deliver our services that way and people seem to like it. The problem again is we've got, up until 2 months ago, we had one office up in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville, Florida. And this year was better. The prior 2 years, I was turning people away at tax time because we couldn't meet the demand, right? So, good problem to have. We need a bigger footprint. We have people, several months ago, I had some guys contact me from Tampa. That's about a 4-hour drive. They wanted to open a business. They needed insurance, and I was a little skeptical when I got the call. I was like, thinking scam or something. I'm like, what? Where? And they're like, can we do it over the phone? And I said, no, you got to come to the office. And they did, like, drove 4 hours to come to the office for us to open the company for them, get their insurance or whatever. And I asked them what, how in the world, and they said that they had a cousin that used to live in Jacksonville, and they asked the cousin's like, you got to go to Zorro to do that. And they like, we looked here and there wasn't one here. The closest one we could find was in Jacksonville, and I was like, wow, that's really the only one right now. But, it tells me that, yeah, I'm sure some people will come from great distances for the incredible service that we provide, but there's probably a lot of people in Tampa that won't drive 4 hours to come see us. And so if I needed, if I had an office there, then I think we'd be off to the races, right? So that's the plan to continue doing what we do, but in offices that are around the state initially. I mean, we got our second office open. We're going to open our third office in the summertime here in Jacksonville. Probably could do 2 more in Jacksonville because Jacksonville's pretty big land-wise, kind of spread out. But we want to have 50 in the next 5 years throughout the state. We'll be regionally across the state. That's the goal. The team, it's myself, it's my spouse. She's not on the call today, but that's her. She's from Guatemala originally, and the reason that got me into the culture. And then Mr. Mark Yagi was a former colleague way back when. He actually started a company that sold out to Citibank years ago. He was in like the market making business for securities. So he's on the team as well. But that's the 3 of us. I've got another 27,000 slides I'm going to go through real quick. And no, I'm just kidding. That's really it. I do have some like questions that I usually get. I don't know if Eric, if it's fine if I throw these out there.
Yeah, it's fantastic. These are some of the things that I think people would love to know. So that's perfect, Robert.
Sure. So, how are you going to get to 50 offices in 5 years? Much like our business process has that kind of process to it that we just roll. The key to this we found is the insurance angle. Actually, we make more money in the tax subsidiary than we do the insurance. But because Florida mandates having workers' compensation coverage, that kind of forces people to get a workers' comp policy. And so that kind of starts the conversation. So to do that, you need a 220 insurance license in the state of Florida. So when we have 3 offices open, it will be 4 people in an office. So it doesn't really cost a lot to run an office. 4 people in the office, a manager, an assistant manager, and 2 people working out front. The assistant manager will help out with everything that we do normally, but also be studying for their 220. And when that assistant manager passes their 220, they can get an office. They can manage an office. So that'll take us 3 to 6. When we have 6 offices, I'll have 6 people studying. Pass your test, you get an office. We'll go 6 to 12, 12 to 24, and 24 to 48. Then I'll open an extra 2 just to make it 50 because I said it would be 50. Again, we don't need a lot of people to run the office. We don't need a lot of office space. I believe that we'll produce, 500 to 600,000 a year in sales. And we only need four people to do that. Again, the manager, the assistant manager, and the people out front making here in Florida, making like $15 an hour is what they make. So we don't have a real gigantic expense with personnel. People ask me how I find people that speak Spanish, find people that speak Portuguese. And so this influx that we've had into Florida from other states, from other countries, a lot of people come in and they're hardworking, right? I mean, if they took a risk to leave their country, to leave their culture, to leave their language, to come here, they're risk takers, right? And so that's why a lot of them end up opening businesses. But not everybody is cut out to do construction or to work in kitchens and to work in hotel and to cut lawns and the things that a lot of our clients do. Some of them come and they worked in an office where they were. Their English might not be perfect, but that's fine with us because we do very little in English. And so they can come in. And so that's where I found people from Colombia, people from Venezuela, super excited to have a professional job where they can earn a little bit of money, even though their English isn't that great. Online competition. I think that's true in the Anglo market. I go back to culture. And again, we've been doing it, 15, 16 years. That first generation immigrant and their kids, right? So I'm getting older now because now I'm doing taxes for people's kids. And I was like, what? You guys were like 7 years old when, anyway, they prefer face to face. I mean, it sounds silly, and I know this internet world and everything else. A lot of the investors that we've had so far are my clients, and a lot of them have come into the office and we've done it together. So, I mean, these are people that instead of going online or going on WhatsApp or calling the office, they'll come to the office in person to make an appointment so they can come into the office, right? So, I think for the next 25 years, we're safe with that. And then the big burning question that a lot have had lately is if the recent immigration crackdown has affected business. And I kind of anticipated that it would, right? Especially here in Florida, from a state standpoint too, immigration is kind of it's a loaded word, right? There's strong reactions on either side, and I thought a lot of clients would kind of hold off and come in maybe later in the year, but we're running a little bit ahead of last year, and it's anecdotal, but I did hear from a client that they were at a job site and 5 people were detained by immigration. And the 2 friends of that person were released the next day and were told that they were being let go because they were no criminal record, and because they checked and they were up to date on their taxes. So I don't know if that word gets out and people are like, oh, you got to go in to do your taxes. And so our tax season so far, that's the big chunk of what we do this point of the year, has been solid, actually a little bit ahead of last year. So those are frequently asked questions.
Yeah, no, I think those are really
answer any other question anybody has.
No, thanks for that. And I know we got a couple more minutes before we go into closing remarks, but I think that's one. I think it's really, you said it was boring, but I don't think anything could be for this close to tax day. I don't think you can say taxes are boring. Incredibly important. We're grateful for folks that help us with that, and to your point, being up to date on insurances, protecting yourself against liability with corporations. These are all really important things, and serving a growing community there makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate your frequently asked questions. I like the growth strategy. I think it's really exciting. Historically, I do feel like certain cultures prefer that in person, that kind of real ability to touch and meet. So I think that makes a ton of sense there. You talked a little bit about growth. The 50 offices that you're planning, is that mostly through the northern, or maybe I guess Florida in general? Or your thoughts about growing nationally? Will there be online eventually? Yeah, let's talk about that.
I think it'll be the state of Florida, right? Because we're I know the insurance regulations here in Florida, and that's by state, and similar across the country. But I think to get through we're in the north, we'll just kind of filter down, right? We'll move like over toward Ocala. I don't know if anyone knows Florida's geography. Somebody on the call does, I'm sure. And then around the Orlando area, then down to Tampa, and then over to Miami. Florida's obviously pretty high on the list of states that have a high concentration of Spanish language speakers. Although if you look nationally, it's not number one on the list, right? So I think the 50 would get us regional and get us throughout the state of Florida. And from that point, I imagine we would go national, right? I think that I think if you look at those maps that show the hotspots of Spanish speakers, Florida's pretty good until you look at like Texas and you look at California, and then much bigger opportunity there. So that's the
Yep,
plan.
I think that makes a ton of sense there. So definitely here to support as you work your way west. So let me know. Let me know. I can help. So perfect timing. Thank you so much for all the questions that came in. Always grateful for all the attendees for joining and listening in. Before we wrap up, let's do a couple of quick things. I love closing remarks. Why is now the perfect time to go to netcapital.com and invest in each of your deals? And then I also love if you could pepper in there. Obviously, we're here to raise capital. You're actively raising on the platform and potentially off platform as well. But outside of cash, how can people help you? I love getting people's kind of insights into, is it sharing more? Is it introductions to a specific space? Is it any services that you need? Is it an employee that you're looking to hire? So starting with you, Robert, we'll go reverse order. So we'll go Grupo Zorro first, and we'll do Aphios, and we'll finish off with Acesis. But Robert, why is now the perfect time to go and invest in Zorro, and outside of cash, how can people help support you in your growth?
So 6 days left on the offering. So now's the perfect time, right? Because you don't want to wait until that last minute, right? So yeah, that's number one. How can people help me otherwise? Um, I'm just gonna, we do some Facebook advertising, right? And I get comments on some of these ads, and it's the country is very, very polarized now. I mean, it's incredible. And so and it's about a 50-50 split. I mean, some people are really down with the program, but boy, if you say the word immigrant, some people get really, really upset and offended. And so I would say, to the pro-immigrant crowd, I think that it's undisputed that the nation was built on immigrants, right? And I hear people all the time talking about, well, you know what I mean? People just need to do things the right way. They need to come in the right way, like my great grandfather did. And, I have to remind them that your great grandfather just showed up. I mean, there was no visa system. There was no, that's what he did. These caravans that you see coming through Central America and up through Mexico, go back and find pictures of Ellis Island, right? I mean, it's just, there's tons of people from countries in Europe that same thing, Asia, same thing. The country's built on that, and I think it's an incredible part of the fabric. So keep supporting that, and those that are anti-immigrant. I mean, I would just tell you to the people that are coming here, in my experience, are people that want to work. I mean, people that are going to great lengths to get here. So it's not, and you can't generalize. I can't say, well, you know what, the people from Brazil or people from Honduras or people from Guatemala are harder working than U.S. people. No, I can't generalize like that. But what I can say is the people that have immigrated here, first generation, that's a certain kind of personality that would do that. That's a type A personality. That's the kind of person that starts a business. That's the kind of person that doesn't mind working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Those are people that we want in this country, I would say. You know what I mean? That, I was born in this country. I didn't do anything special to get here. I mean, I didn't go to any great lengths to get here. And I love my country, and I'm so happy that I was born here. But someone else that took a risk, left what they had and came here, I think you got to step back and go, yeah, that person's probably good for the country. So yeah, but outside of cash, tolerance, that's what people could give me.
I love that, Robert. Just human dignity, positive ending message there. And remember, you can go and invest at Grupo Zorro through the Netcapital platform. And then next up on the list here, Aphios Pharma, Dr. Castor. Why is now the perfect time to go to Netcapital and invest in Aphios? And actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here.
Okay, you can stop.
There we go. Oops. Yep, there we go. Thank you. Dr. Castor, why is now the perfect time to go and invest in Aphios? And outside of cash, obviously, you should consider investing. Outside of cash, how can folks support you building Aphios?
Well, it's a very uncertain time right now with the tariff wars and the markets going up and down. So where do you put your money? So I think investing now is a good time because all that will pass in 2 to 3 years. And that's where our first exit will be. So the market forces will not see that money invested now because it's going to be basically aligned in the portfolio for Aphios Pharma. The other reasons why it's a good time to invest, we have to raise capital to move on to clinical trials with our product. That means we have to do a Reg D round, which will be a private round, which will be with accredited investors. It will be a round in which it might be Class A shares, preferred shares, whereas in Netcapital we have common shares. So those shares will be priced at a different level. So come in and invest at a low price for common shares so that you can get advantage with a step up. So a step up of 2 or 3 means that you're stepping up. And that's the whole idea. We want to step up the investment so that when we do an exit, there's opportunity to exit at each stage. Now, there's no reason to, on a personal level, that you should invest now is because of all the anxiety and pain that people are going through. We all have families who are going through a bunch of anxiety and pain. And we know that regular cannabis works, but it does not work over a long period of time. So what we're doing by making extended release cannabinoids, we are looking to sustain them in the body longer so that you can get relief more than for an hour or 2. It'll be a relief for a day or a week or a month. And that's important, especially in these days of high anxiety and pain. So that I think that really will resonate. And of course, if you have friends and family who are going through that, yes, this is a good time to do that. Also, in response to all of this uncertainty, we have doubled our strategy. Our strategy is now not only going through the FDA-approved process, but making nanoparticles of CBD to take directly to market as OTC products. So we don't have to wait on the regulatory barriers to get those products to customers. And we'll do that directly through our website. So those are the reasons, Eric.
Brilliant. And if you want to sneak in with 30 seconds outside of cash, how folks can support you? Dr. Castor? Oh, maybe lost audio there. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Castor.
Speaking to me?
Yes. Yeah. If you
I
want
thought
to
you were
sneak in
speaking to
30...
Dr. Costas.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so many doctors, it's hard to keep track of here. But
Right.
Dr. Castor, if you want to sneak in 30 seconds outside of cash, those are great reasons to go to Netcapital Invest. Outside of investing, is there a way that folks can support you and Aphios?
Absolutely. We need people. We need people with integrity, people with passion, and people with knowledge. And those are the 3 characteristics. And I usually say, Eric, we need people with good heart, good hands, and good minds. And that's what we need.
All right, if you fall in that category, feel free to reach out to Dr. Castor. And now, actually, Dr. Costas, bringing us home here.
Okay.
Costas and Thomas here, bringing us home. Why is now the perfect time to go to Netcapital and invest in Acesis? And is there any way that folks can support you outside of investing as well?
Great. Thank you, Eric. Again, thank you for the fellow panelists for their input and presentations. As I mentioned, Acesis is developing an intervention for a major global issue for men's health and well-being. The platform technology of the peptides we're developing are based on the strong science of Dr. Papadopoulos, has been a KOL in the field for over 35 years. Our program and pipeline has been sufficiently de-risked to proceed to final IND studies and to move into the clinic in less than 12 months. There is no innovation in the field of testosterone in 90 years, according to our estimation. Everything is out there today, is a modification of the original testosterone for a different delivery method. So we are inventing the future of men's by making the testes the window to your health. We have the potential to be first-in-class molecule, which implies that this mechanism of action that Dr. P has discovered is unique, has never been described before to treat a disease. Why this is important? This is important because it creates a monopoly opportunity for any pharma or biotech that is going to be partnering with Acesis. And this fits exactly our out-licensing and partnership model I described earlier. We have a very strong IP position. We have a family of patents that is composition of matter, the strongest patent actually condition you can have. And our positioning ensures long-term exclusivity in key markets, including the US up to 2040, EU, Asia Pacific. Also, our strategy is to follow a layered approach where we go from composition of matter to formulation to disease indications to make sure we capture every IP possible. We have well-defined exit strategies from the preclinical stage where we are today to phase 1AB or phase 2. And we are playing in huge total addressable markets that if we include the other comorbidities of low T, reach over $150 billion. Again, the idea is not for little Acesis to go after all these markets by ourselves, but as part of our business model is to team up and partner with large pharma or biotech companies. Just in the US alone, as I mentioned, the market is $3 billion, but in the US alone, just to leave you with that example, 13 million of US men today have low testosterone. Only less than 10% of those are treated, whether this is stigma or misdiagnosed. So the market opportunity is ever increasing. The understanding of the importance of testosterone is increased. Again, we're the only intervention that uses the body, the testes, to produce testosterone like you were back in your 20s or 30s. Obviously, we're using the RegCF campaign, and that's how people can help Acesis to accelerate its development, to move from the pre-IND development stage we are now to the first in-man clinical trial and major milestone. So join us at this inflection point and invest in the next generation men's health as Acesis is as a leader, is trying to become a leader. How people can help us other than funding, similar to Dr. Castor, again, we're a virtual company. So any service providers, whether in the regulatory environment, whether in the CRO or CDMO business, although I mentioned we already have alliances and partnerships established, we are very open to new ideas, to clever minds, and especially people that we can break bread together and we can create the inventions for the future for men's health.
Love that, Costas. And Tom, can't leave you without a word here. Can you bring us home here? It's hard to follow that, but a little bit
how do you follow that? Well said. I think, yeah, the bottom line is you're moving from 80 years of the past, introducing steroid into your body versus our invention, which the design is to take a pill and have your body make its own testosterone. And now is the time to get in very, very early to meet those inflection points with higher valuations in the future. We believe this is the perfect opportunity to do so.
Love it. Yeah, nope, that was a good addition right there. Well, I want to thank so much for the attendees and thank you for your thoughtful questions. We're always here for you to get to know the faces behind the names that you see on the offering pages. I have to thank each of our panelists here. Thank you to Acesis and Costas and Tom. Thank you to Aphios and Dr. Castor. And of course, thank you to Zorro and Robert as well. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you all. I enjoy this so much. Thanks for allowing everyday folks to participate in your offerings through the Netcapital platform, and appreciate everybody attending and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.